Ed? Ooh, I'm live. Yeah. Okay, right. Oh, I can take this off. Sorry. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Tristan Hennigs, and I'm the Arts Development Officer at Elmbridge Borough Council, and we are the proud sponsors of the Royston Pike Lecture Series. And this is the launch tonight of the 2021 season, and there have been many firsts in its 46 consecutive years of this lecture series, but tonight's first is that we're presenting it live and simultaneously streaming it on the River House YouTube channel. So we're really excited about it, and hopefully we'll be able to carry on the season from January and schedule some more and pick up where we left off. So speaking of that, tonight we're delighted to present Mags Ladder. As you know, Mags is a much-loved raconteuse, and she is also an actress, a singer, a founder of the Barn Theatre Club in Molesey. She was the original Arts Development Officer at Elmbridge Borough Council, a trustee for the RC Sheriff Trust, and all things arts in the community. So we are very grateful to have this part of her with us tonight. Mags is going to be speaking tonight bringing back her speech that she was scheduled to present in last season in March when she was rudely interrupted by a world pandemic. And tonight she is bringing back to us the talk about relationships. And so please welcome Mags Ladder.
So I'm an experiment. If it doesn't go well tonight, everyone seems normal until you get to know them. So I will say good evening to all you normal people. And I hope you're all smiling, because I cannot see behind your masks. And I hope everybody out there is smiling, because I can't see you at all. And I just want to say welcome and hope you're sitting normally. By normally, I mean like the people here in their chairs, you at home in your settees, from your bed, in the jacuzzi or the bath. Or if you're not really that normal, you could be back on your back of your motorbike watching this as you're going down the M40, or you could be sitting in your fruit bowl. Either way, we will see what we can work out what is actually normal. Now, I found this, and I wrote this down. If I were to consider myself an absolutely normal person, I would be the least most person to be noticed in a crowd. Okay, so that means I would never ever stand out, and I would fit in perfectly in most situations. Well, if that's the case, I don't want to be normal. Okay, so we're not going to be here long this evening. 40 minutes tops, so that you can all get back to your beds at a normal time. And along the way, there will be bits and bobs which will be silly, serious, and you will have some home truths and some lessons for life. So, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Everyone Seems Normal Until You Get to Know Them is the title of a book written by John Ortberg, which I've never read. And the title spawned lots of t-shirts and mugs and cards. And when Tristan asks me every other year, Mags, could you present a talk to the Royston Pike Lecture Series? I say yes. She says, what are you going to talk about? And I think, God, I haven't got a clue. And I usually spy on something in my house. A couple of years ago it was Housework Won't Kill You, but Why Take the Chance? And this year it was Everyone Seems Normal Until You Get to Know Them. Hence, what I have researched and what we're going to be chatting about tonight. So, sounded like a good subject. And so, once again, who's normal? Well, not any of you. and that's a given, and none and no one that you have ever met either. None of us are normal. And the closer we get to people, the plainer that becomes. We have the need to fit in. Do you think you all fit in? We have the need to keep up appearances and to keep up with the Joneses. Does anybody here know a Mr. and Mrs. Jones and what they have to keep up with, what we have to keep up with? If anybody knows, could they come and see me later this evening? And yet, for all our quirks, our jagged edges, our tics and our weirdnesses, we all need each other. We are the community, which is more than just a word because it is one of our fundamental requirements. So, how do we flawed, abnormal people such as ourselves master the forces that make us join together in life-changing relationships? And how do you know you're not normal? To begin with, said the cat, a dog's not normal. You grant that? Well, I suppose so, said Alice. Well then, the cat went on, you see, a dog growls when it's angry and wags its tail when it's pleased. Now, I, the cat says, growl when I'm pleased and I wag my tail when I'm angry, and therefore, obviously, I'm not normal. Oh yes, said Alex, very perplexed. Here's a quick definition of normal. Getting dressed in clothes that you buy for work and driving through traffic in a car that you are still paying for in order to get to the job you need to pay for the clothes and pay for the car and the house you leave vacant all day so that you can afford to go out and do work to actually live in the bloody thing. And we're all weird. We're all weird. All of us around us seem normal. But wait till you get to know them. And have you ever felt, and I'm sure you have, because I do often, that people you know don't understand you? Well, of course they don't, because they probably don't. And the real vital question is why? Why is it so hard to get other people to understand who we are and where we're coming from? Do we actually know ourselves who we are and where we're coming from? Now, the answer lies in a very simple fact, the human brain. And the human brain is unwilling to expend much of its energy and processing capacity unless it really, really has to. So, to keep from having to work too hard, the brain relies on simple, efficient thought processes to get the job done. Not so much out of a laziness on the brain's part, but out of sheer necessity. Too much going on, too much to notice, to understand, to act on, for the brain to give every individual an occurrence its undivided, unbiased attention. So when it comes to perceiving you all of us, without realising and relying heavily on assumptions, and that is the brain. An assumption is the miserly brain's favourite shortcut. Those assumptions guide what the perceiver sees, how that information is interpreted, and how it is remembered, forming an integral part of his or her perception of us all, of you, of me. And the two most powerful overriding assumptions our brains make are a confirmation bias. When other people look at you, they see what they expect to see. If they have reason to believe that you are intelligent, they will see evidence of that in your behaviour, whether or not there's actually any intelligence there at all. And if you have reason to believe that if they have reason to believe that you are dishonest, they will interpret that through a lack of eye contact, of awkward body language as evidence that you have something to hide, as opposed to evidence that you're shy, distracted, or just busting to go to the bloody toilet. 2, the primacy effect. First impressions matter most. In other words, information we get about a person early in our observation of them influences how we interpret and remember everything that comes after. And remember, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I don't know if you have ever noticed, but first impressions are often usually wrong. Even our British DNA isn't normal. As Benjamin Zephaniah tells us, you take some Picts, some Celts and Citures and let them settle. Then overrun them with Roman conquerors. Remove the Romans after approximately 400 years and add lots of Norman French to some Anglos, Saxons, Jutes, Vikings, and then stir them all together vigorously. Mix some Chileans, some cool Jamaicans, some Dominicans, Trinidadians and Bajans with some Ethiopians, some Chinese, Vietnamese and Sudanese. Then take a blend of Somalians, Sri Lankans, Nigerians and Pakistanis, combine them with some Guyanese, and then you turn up the heat. Sprinkle some fresh Indians, some Malaysians, some Bosnians, Iraqis, Bangladeshis, together with Afghans, Spanish, Turkish, Kurdish, Japanese, and the odd Palestinian or two. Then add it all to the melting pot. Leave the ingredients to simmer. And as they mix and blend, allow their languages to flourish, binding them together with English. Allow time to cool, and some unity, understanding and respect for the future, give them. Serve with justice and enjoy. Now, gentlemen, I have two gentlemen here in the audience, and hopefully I've got some gentlemen out there watching. Now, ladies, I don't want you to get excited, because I rarely get excited, because this is what gentlemen did for us in the 50s, because this next couple of three things is from a book as to how a gentleman making a first impression should be with a new date. It's your duty, gentlemen, to come up with something she will enjoy. When a woman is with a man that has a plan, they feel they can relax and really enjoy themselves. Secondly, clean the car. If you're picking her up in the car, give it a nice cleaning before the date, because first impressions matter big time on that first date, and many women will use the cleanliness of your car. Have you got that? Are you listening? Are you listening, sir? Yes, right. The cleanliness of your car to gauge how you carry yourself in the rest of your life. Look smart. Dressing up not only leaves a good first impression, it's just plain respectful. It shows your date, you've thought enough about them to put your best foot forward. Call her and tell her exactly what you're going to do on the date, because a lady likes to plan ahead and think about what she'll wear and how and what colour even she's going to do her nails. Please be on time. A gentleman never keeps a lady waiting, and immediately compliment her on the way she looks, and please open the door for her. People communicate in mysterious ways that go far beyond simple language. You need to actually pay attention at the same time. Don't be planning dinner or the grocery list while you're having a conversation with your partner, and for the love of God, put away your phone. And when you're talking to your partner, don't just react to his or her words. Notice his or her tone, posture, and above all, please, make eye contact. Not making eye contact is a sure sign that A, you don't care, and B, you're a serial killer. And the huge bonus to really focusing on your partner is that if you can call out the problem together and accept it, you can always find a way to laugh about what that problem or their challenge can be. So, by the time you swear you're his, shivering and sighing, and he vows his passion is infinitive, undying, lady, please make note of this. One of you is lying. Emily Dickinson. And of course, we have relationships with things. Now, personal question here I want to ask you, and that is, which of you has a doll or a teddy bear that you've had for as long as you can remember? Any hands up here in the audience? Oh, yes, a few. Yeah, excellent. Anybody out there? Don't be shy. If you're clutching your teddy bear or your dolly in your arms, don't be shy. Don't shove it behind a cushion, because I'm going to tell you the story of John Betjeman and his bear. Now, John Betjeman had and was in a relationship. Well, John Betjeman was in lots of relationships, but this relationship is the one, the long-lasting one, with his teddy bear. And his teddy bear's name was Archibald Ormsby Gore. And he was born in 1908. And Betjeman's bear was a lifelong companion, and he fashioned a life for him. He gave his bear an actual life. And he clarifies this in a letter to a lady called Camilla Russell in 1931. Archibald, my bear, has accepted a call to the Congregational Church on Winstead Flats, for where he has been doing the duty of lay reading for some years. And Archie is very fond of dancing. And he continues, and he has also accepted the incumbency of Rom's Episcopal Chapel in Homerton, East 17. It is a proprietary chapel and in communion with part of the Church of England, and it has always been associated with the Evangelical Party. And Archibald, remember it's a teddy bear, will have to wear a black gown in the pulpit, as the surplice is considered ritualistic. He will distribute Holy Supper at the Lord's table. And Benjamin also writes in February 1933 to Alan Price Jones that Archibald has been very drunk lately, and he was asked to give a talk at the Young Men's Welfare Centre in Colchester last Tuesday and arrived reeling with sherry. I don't know how he could do such a thing, and his Homer is still unfinished, and also I fear Archibald's got a touch of ringworm. Benjamin also wrote a poem called Archibald, in which the bear is temporarily stuffed in the loft for fear of Benjamin appearing too soft before his father. John Betjeman had quite a sad upbringing and a very, very strict upbringing, and his teddy bear was his only solace. And he writes, "The bear who sits above my bed, a doleful bear is he to see. From out his drooping pear-shaped head, his woolen eyes look into me. He has no mouth, but seems to say, 'They'll burn you on the judgment day.' Those woolen eyes, the things they've seen, those flannel ears, the things they've heard, among horse chestnut fans of green and the fluting of an April bird, and quarrelling downstairs until doors slammed at 31 West Hill. The dreaded evening keyhole scratch, announcing some return below. The nursery's landing's lifted latch, the punishment I'm about to undergo. Still I could smooth those half-moon ears and wet that forehead with my tears. Whatever rush to catch a train, whatever joy there was to share of sounding seaboard rainbowed rain or seaweed-scented Cornish air, sharing the laughs, you still were there, you ugly, unrepentant bear. When 9, I hid you in a loft. I dared not let you share my bed. My father would have thought me soft, or so at least my mother said. She only then our secret knew, and thus my guilty passion grew. The bear who sits above my bed, more aged now is he to see. His woolen eyes have thinner thread, but still he seems to say to me in double doom notes like a knell, "You're half a century nearer to hell." And if an analyst one day of school in Adler, Jung or Freud should take this aged bear away, then, oh my God, the dreadful void in drafty darkness could but be eternity, my God, eternity. Now, Archibald, better known as Archie, together with a toy elephant called Jumbo, were lifelong companions of Betjeman's. And Betjeman took his bear to Cambridge. No, he took his bear to Oxford in the 20s, and Evelyn Waugh was there at the same time. And as a result, Archie became the model for Aloysius. Sebastian Fleet, I don't know how to pronounce this. Sebastian Flight, it's spelled F-L-Y-T-E. Flight, flit, flight. Okay, thank you. In Evelyn Waugh's novel, Brideshead Revisited. And Aloysius, now he came to life, 1945. And the large brown teddy bear represented Sebastian's reluctance in the relationship to grow up. He was an integral part of the story and is why Sebastian became who and what he was. Sebastian also, like John, took his teddy bear everywhere, even to the pub when he was drinking. Never did any study, he just drank. So Aloysius was there accompanying Sebastian to all the pubs, and it's a good thing Aloysius didn't drink. Now the bear who played Aloysius, his real name was Delicatessen. See? Delicatessen in honour of his prior owner, and Delicatessen belonged to the British actor Peter Bull. And Bull and Delicatessen are credited with the sparking of the revival of the teddy bear when the filming started for Brideshead and Shown, and Bull wrote a book, Bear With Me, B-E-A-R, that was published in 1969. And Delicatessen was from the Ideal Toy Company, and he was born in 1907. That made him, when they made Brideshead Revisited, the ripe old age of 74. Now, after his owner died in 84, Aloysius, Delicatessen, spent time in the Bear Museum in Stratford before being bought by a wealthy American teddy bear collectors. They paid $50,000 for him in a private sale. But they realised that this bear should be in England. So they sent him back to England. I don't know what happened to the money, but they sent him back to England, and he now is in the bear shop in a museum in Oxford. And he's well loved and very well taken care of. And Archibald Gore, and Jumbo were in John Betjeman's arms when he died in 1984. 8 hard truths about life. Everyone you love is going to die. We give our lives meaning. And if you feel that life is meaningless, that's your fault. The perfect partner does not exist. Concentrate on finding someone who's a lot of quantities you like and the same values, and you can build a fantastic relationship. Life is a game. Find the games you want to play, learn the rules, and find a way to be successful at the games you have selected. And everything ends. Everything ends. Youth, love, life, all ends. And that's what makes them so valuable. Be romantic about the little things. Be a realist about the big things. Life isn't a movie. You need to have a plan and an artist's ambition, but an engineer's mindset, and figure out a way and stop. During a visit to a mental asylum, a visitor asked the director, "How do you determine whether or not a patient should be institutionalized?" "Well," said the director, "we fill up a bathtub. We offer a teaspoon, a teacup, a bucket for the patient, and we ask him or her to empty the bathtub." "Oh, I understand," said the visitor. "A normal person would use the bucket because it's bigger than the spoon or the teacup." "No," said the director, "a normal person would pull the plug." Do you want a bed by the window? The more people I meet, the more I like my dog. How much time do you spend trying to fit in, trying to be like everybody else, molding yourself to meet the standards of the status quo? Do you often wonder what it means to be normal? Too many people waste their time striving to conform to the norm. They may tone down their opinions, dull their personalities, stifle their laugh, bury their needs, or most commonly of all, they change their appearance to fit in with society's current definition of beauty, whatever the hell that might be. And basically, a lot of us are changing the very essence of who we are in order to keep up with a notion that doesn't even exist. Marrying a man, well, a woman either, is like buying something you've been admiring for a long time in a shop window. You may love it when you get it home, but it doesn't always go with everything else. My wife and I were happy for 20 years, and then we met. And the best sign of a healthy relationship is no sign of it on Facebook. No one will ever be able to make you feel loved unless you love yourself. We will all eventually become old and unattractive in the eyes of society. You can't always get what or who you want. Love, dating, and relationships cannot be figured out logically. They require empathy, vulnerability, and honesty. You can never, ever change others. And the person who cares less has the most power in a relationship. Think about that. The person who cares less has the most power in a relationship. And when in love, everyone becomes an idiot. Few church notices. Irving Benson and Jessie Carter were married on October the 24th in the church. So ends a friendship that began in their school days. Low self-esteem support group will meet Thursday at 7 p.m. Please use the back door. Weight Watchers will meet at 7 p.m. at the First Presbyterian Church, and please use the large double doors at the side entrance. Don't let worry kill you off. Let the church help. The fasting and prayer conference includes meals. Now, this next piece is unbelievable, and it's about a future daughter-in-law called Heidi Withers, and you've only got to Google this to read the whole story of this, and I've shortened it down as we could be for ages, and this is a relationship between a mother and her future daughter-in-law. And even worse in this case, it's the stepmother and the relationship with her future daughter-in-law. Newly engaged Heidi Withers, who was from Holland, was invited to her future in-law's home for the weekend. Her fiancé Freddie was English and wanted to introduce Heidi to a typical, normal English home and to experience his country's warm welcome. His stepmother, Carolyn Bourne, and his father looked forward to Heidi's visit. After Heidi spent the weekend at her fiancé's home in England, her future stepmother, Carolyn, wanted her to conform to the normal habits of the English and in particular to the Bourne family. So she sent her a detailed list of instructions. This was after the visit, after Heidi had spent, should behave if she hopes to be accepted into the Bourne family. And these are the bullet points of what she said in the email. It's high time someone explained to you about good manners. Yours are obvious by their absence, and I do feel so sorry for you. Unfortunately for Freddie, he has fallen in love with you, and Freddie, being Freddie, I gather, it is not easy to reason with him or yet encourage him to consider how he might be able to help you. It may just be possible to get through to you, though, and I do hope so. If you want to be accepted by the wider Bourne family, I suggest you take some guidance from experts with utmost haste. There are plenty of finishing schools around in this country. Please, for your own good, for Freddie's sake, and for your future involvement with the Bourne family, do something as soon as humanly possible. And here are a few examples of your lack of manners. Fancy getting an email like this. Oh, God. Right. When you are a guest in another's house, you do not declare what you will and will not eat, unless you are positively allergic to something. You do not remark that you do not have and you have not had enough food, and you do not start eating before everybody else, and you do not take additional helpings without being invited to by your host. When a guest in another's house, you do not lie in bed until late morning in households that rise early. You fall in line, please, with the house norms. You should never, ever insult the family you are about to join at any time, and most definitely not in public. I just think Heidi would have had enough by, but anyway. I gather you passed this off as joke, but the reaction in the pub was one of shock, not laughter. That's what she said. You should have handwritten a card to me. You have never written to thank me after your stay. And you regularly draw attention to yourself. Perhaps you should ask yourself why. No one gets married in a castle unless they own it. It is brash and it is celebrity-style behaviour, and I understand your parents are unable to contribute very much towards the cost of your wedding. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, except that convention is such that one might presume that they would have saved over the years for their daughter's marriage. Now, if this is the case, it will be most ladylike and gracious to lower your sights and have a modest wedding as befits their income. And one could be accused of thinking you must pat yourself on the back for having caught such an eligible young man as Freddie. Let me tell you here and now how I pity Freddie. Or when elsewhere in the email it says, Bomber, the family dog, was left profoundly upset, depressed, and anxious by your visit. Bloody dog. Anyway, if I was Heidi, I'd give this Freddie the elbow. Adorable children are considered to be general property of the human race. Rude children belong to their mothers. Happiness is having a large, loving, caring family, close-knit, in another city. Like all parents, my husband and I just do the very best we can, and we're going to hold our breath and hope we've set aside enough money to pay for the children's therapy. If you're always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you can be. Now, aren't you all sitting here and there thinking, am I not so happy as to be not normal? So have you all come to the conclusion in a way that you're not normal? Oh, for heaven's sake, of course you're not normal. A British poll found that 82% of women agreed they are more attracted to a man who likes animals. And while having a dog will do wonders for your dating life, a whopping 90% of single women said that men who own a cat are nicer than other men. Do you own a cat? Yes. Do you own a cat? Yes? Pardon? You're equally as nice, darling. And Ian, do you own a cat? No, equally as nice, but I think this guy's got the edge on the pair of you. Listing that you own a cat on your dating profile could do wonders for the number of responses you get. So, gentlemen, if you're going to go date it, lie. Just say you've got a cat. But remember, a cat is for life, not just until you find a partner. Now, several studies in the UK have found that people, especially women, prefer to sleep with their cats rather than with their partners. And they even report sleeping better with a cat than with a human. There are no lessons at school on relationships. We are taught the biology of sex, the legal ins and outs of marriage, and then maybe we read a few obscure love stories from the 19th century, Jane Eyre, Mills and Boon, on how relationships develop. And without clear ideas from adults, it's trial and error. And if you're like most people, it's mostly error. And one of the problems is that a lot of unhealthy relationship habits, they're baked into our culture. And we worship romantic love. You know, the dizzying and irrational kind of love that somehow finds that breaking china and plates against the wall in a fit of tears can be somewhat endearing, and scoff at practicality or unconventional sexualities. Men and women are encouraged to objectify each other and their relationships, and our partners are often seen as achievements or prizes rather than someone to share emotional support with. And for most of us, our mums and dads, I remember my mother, I lived here, and they live in Cheltenham, and Mummy rang me up and she said, Daddy and I have bought tickets to go to, I think it was the Bath Pump House or something like that, to see a brass band. And I said, oh, how lovely. And then she got a bit conspiratorial and she said down the phone, now, Margaret, you will wear something normal, won't you? Yes, Mother. So normal to Mother was like a twin set pearls and a sensible Swedes. Anyway, that's that. We went to the brass concert and it was brilliant. I love brass bands. And brilliant evening, great. And when it all finished, I gave them a standing ovation. Whereas I felt my mother on the back of my jacket. I was in my late 50s, Mark, I wasn't a child, on my jacket, pulled me down to my seat and she hissed, why can't you just normal people? So, Mum and Dad, this has got a bit of a naughty word in, but I'll say a word similar. They muck you up. Yeah, Mum and Dad, they may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had and add some extra, just for you. But they were mucked up in their turn by fools in old-style hats and coats, who half the time were soppy stern and half at one another's throats. Man hands on misery to man. It deepens like a coastal shelf. Oh, get out as early as you can and don't have any kids yourself. Now, I imagine many of you have been to interviews for jobs. I bet everybody in here has been for an interview for a job. And at some time during that interview, your interviewer will ask you about your hobbies. And that's so that they can form a different opinion or a different side of you that they would have done asking you the normal questions for the work they are thinking of employing you for. And I was looking up on a human resources site and I came across this article, and it's some of the answers, and they are as follows. So what do you like to do? What are your hobbies? Oh, honestly, I like doing nothing. Oh, another one. Oh, I'm a very sensual person. I love physical sex, and I'm always looking for opportunities. Fancy having somebody like that in the office. Alcohol. Alcohol, alcohol, every time. Guinness and whiskey, fabulous. Drunk in the office all of the time. Somebody else said, hacking. Young woman, painting my toenails as often as I can. Talking, oh, I love talking. I can talk for hours and hours and I just love, shut up. Snake skin collecting. No? Any of you here snake skin collectors? Collecting firearms. God. Arguing with the centre. Streaking anywhere. Makes for a happy office environment. Extreme ironing. Have you heard of extreme ironing? Well, it exists as a hobby because I thought they'd made that up. No, people take ironing boards halfway up Everest and iron. They take, to me, any plain ironing is extreme. In another little chat I do, there was something I haven't done any ironing for 18 years. And I'm not going to bother now because nothing will fit me. Okay? And, yes, halfway up of it, so look it up, extreme ironing. Please, I beg you, look it up. Now, a police recruitment officer many, many years ago told me that he was interviewing a prospective police cadet, and he, as I said, asked all about his hobbies and what did he like to do in his spare time, da-di-da-di-da-di-da. And the interview was coming to a close, and the recruitment officer leaned towards the young man and said, well, before we finish, is there anything you feel that we should know about you? And the police cadet he leaned across the desk, and my friend leaned a bit nearer and said, yes. And the police cadet said, I've got a very low sperm count. That might have stood him in good stead as being a member of the police force, I really don't know. The reason we all like to think so well of others is that we're all afraid for ourselves. And the basis of optimism is sheer terror. Oscar Wilde, picture of Dorian Gray. Nobody has the answers. Authority is arbitrary. You will never find time. You got to look for it. You got to make it. Nobody's thinking about you. They're all too busy thinking about themselves. It's harder to be kind than to be clever. Everybody hurts. Life is not supposed to be fair, and we're supposed to learn to live with that. Not everything would make sense immediately. You need to wait sometimes. And to finish for this evening, so you can get to bed, your normal time, I'm going to read you a poem about John Betjeman. His image of how to get on in society, how to fit in, how to be accepted, liked, admired, and to appear normal. Phone for the fish knives, Norman, as cook is a little unnerved. Oh, you kiddies have crumpled the serviettes, and I must have things daintily served. Are the requisites all in the toilet? The frills round the cutlets can wait, till the girl has replenished the cruets and switched on the logs in the grate. It's ever so close in the lounge, dear, but the vestibule's comfy for tea, and Howard is riding on horseback, so do come and take some tea with me. Now here is a fork for your pastries, and do use the couch for your feet. And I know that I wanted to ask you, is trifle sufficient for sweet? Milk, and then, just as it comes, dear, I'm afraid the preserve's full of stones. Beg pardon, I'm soiling the doilies with afternoon tea cakes and scones. How exhausting it must be all the time, getting it right, giving a good first impression, waiting to be liked, waiting to be loved, fitting in, saying the right thing, dressing to please, not upsetting anyone, being normal. My advice, don't bloody bother. Thank you. Would anybody like to tell us of an abnormal experience? I've rushed through this as fast as I can because I want to hear about your abnormal experiences.
Where to start? Yeah.
Oh, Tristan has an abnormal experience. You've none?
Many.
Oh, many.
Start every day.
Now, okay, so if I pointed to all the people here in the audience that I can see, because unfortunately I can't see you out there, but if you have had an abnormal experience, please put your hand up. And if the person sitting with you, if you have someone sitting with you, you can tell them. Okay? This could be a very interesting next half hour. So, have you had an abnormal experience? Well, let me put it another way. Hands up to everybody whose every experience they've ever had in life has been normal. In their perception, normal. I'm ever so pleased because I'm not having to preach to the unconverted. I am pleased to see that you are all normal. Now, what's your usual bedtime? What is the time? Coming up for your bedtime. You see, this is your normal bedtime. What time is it? 7:15? Yeah. 9 o'clock, 8:30?
Oh, well, no, yeah, about 9-ish.
About 9-ish. That's not very normal, 9 o'clock. No. Who goes to bed before midnight? Well, the 9 o'clock person does, obviously. Yes. I know people who don't get into bed till 1 o'clock in the morning. What on earth do they do? I mean, if they're getting into bed with somebody, yes, fair enough, but I'm not going to go down that route. But I mean, some people don't get into bed till 1 o'clock. All decent telly finishes about 11. So what do you do for 2 hours? Have you done nothing all day? Have you done nothing normal all day? I hope the Royston Pike Lecture Series experiment is sending you home thinking about how more abnormal your lives can be. To those of you out there, I want you to wake up tomorrow and at some time during the day do at least 1 or 2 very abnormal things. We all eat, we all sleep, we all watch a bit of telly, we all read, and that list goes on, and that is all normal because we're all doing it as a community. But to fit in and to try and be one big melting pot where we're all the same is absolutely awful. Don't do it. Just please be, for me, abnormal, and good night.